Turn this off. Welcome everybody. So we're going live on afternoon here, well, morning, depending on where you are, I guess. And we're going to be taking a look at buying a new laptop. Friend Patriot was asking about it, and I figured instead of just sitting there and having a phone call, why not make this a chat? So we'll go live here for a bit and talk about buying a new laptop, specifically buying one today in 2025. So to help facilitate that, I've put together what do you call these things? What do you call these lists over here on Amazon? So these will give us some idea of what's available out there, price ranges and that kind of thing. And I'll drop a link to this for anybody that might want it. I think I can get a link right here. Can I get a link right here? Copy link. There we go. I'll put that in the link in the description here, or at least in the comments as we're chatting along here. And if you want to ask questions specifically, I am, I don't know if I'd call myself an expert on laptops or anything. I've used laptops for a long, long time. I prefer a laptop over a desktop for sure. But I did prepare some stuff. I have my robot assistants helping me, and we'll be talking about buying a new laptop in 2024 and the focus on the different needs, whether it's for like work, gaming, students, casual use around the house. We'll consider the features like performance, like that, the actual things like the processor, RAM, and hard drive, as well as the display qualities, the portability, battery lives, connectivity, which is a big deal for some people. We'll talk about build quality and upgradability, as well as the extra features out there like biometrics for security, higher quality components like webcams. We'll talk about budgets and brands and support, and we'll try to prioritize based on what people are talking about here. And like I say, I'm more of a laptop fan. I don't know, since I can't even remember really being tied to a desktop. Probably we've been traveling since 2005, so I probably quit using my desktops soon after. Probably had a desktop around until maybe 2009, but I really haven't used them since. For a while there, I keep a computer around, and once it's outlived its life, it's usually still kicking, but it's either too old or not capable of whatever the new software is we're demanding or using in it. So I'll take and use those old laptops for other purposes, and for that reason, some of my laptops are pretty old, and I did keep some towers around for those reasons. But once you get to flat screen monitors, or it was less of an issue, I guess, but back before, when the desktop required a huge monitor and a laptop would essentially be a flat screen, it was real easy to stick with a laptop on the desk instead of a huge. They were basically the same footprint. All right, so I don't know if Patriot's going to show up. I probably should have double checked to make sure it was good at this time. But if he shows up, we'll ask him if he wants a link. But we'll dig in, and we're sharing the screen here. We're looking at a list of laptops essentially randomly. I just went through Amazon, and how I did it is I went to the main search bar on Amazon. I just typed in laptop. Pretty basic. There it is. And after typing in laptop, I said to sort by best sellers. So not just what Amazon wants to sell us or what the best deals are, anything like that, what actually sold the most. And I find that, for me personally, this is the thing I find the most interesting for gathering information about a product, or maybe a new thing I'm going to buy, like a vacuum or a rice cooker or something, because I can see what's actually selling. And you can right away see the reviews. So right here we see this Acer, which is the brand, Aspire, which is I think the model number, or Aspire 3 maybe. Some numbers, which I don't know what those are. Slim laptop, 15-inch, so that's how wide the monitor is diagonally. Full HD IPS display. That means something probably about the monitor. AMD Ryzen 3 is the processor, the brain of the thing. And then there's some numbers, quad core, and that's describing the brain of it, the processor. Then we have the AMD Radeon graphics. A big part of a computer is the graphics, how it can display stuff on the screen. The easiest way I think of this is it's either going to give you images really well or it's going to give you video really well. It's two different types of processor. They both can do both, but they're either kind of aimed towards speed in video or they're aimed towards quality of picture. So when you are buying a laptop, that's something to keep in mind for some people. That's why they list it as one of the main characteristics of the computer usually. Both desktops and laptops will have the video built in. The big difference with a laptop and a desktop is that the desktop is two pieces or more. It's the tower or the part with the computer in it, and then it's a monitor, at least two separate units, and then things like keyboards and all that. Where a laptop, of course, is everything's in one piece. The monitor, the keyboard, and the computer, speakers, camera, everything you need is just in one unit. So it's very practical, but it's also means you have to sit there and type on it. You have to look at it. The desktop computers give you much more ability. But since Patriot, the one who asked the question originally, who said he's talking about buying a laptop, that's why we're looking at laptops. Getting into the next piece of the description here, the 8 gigabytes LPR DDRS, that's just a bunch of letters that mean RAM. So that's sort of the arms. I think of the RAM on a computer as how big the arms are. So you have the brain of the computer as the processor, and you have the RAM is how much it can juggle, how much it can do at one time. Can it do things quickly? So maybe you can think of it as the arms and legs. Like that's the part that does that's the part that interacts with the software and makes things happen. The RAM does the work temporarily. The brain, the processor, is sort of the coordinator of all the different pieces. So then we have the 128 gigs of SSD. So that's the hard drive. The hard drive would be its pockets or its backpack, like how much stuff it can hold on to. The RAM is what it can juggle at the moment, the software that it's running, the processes that it's doing. The hard drive is how much it can carry, how much it's taken with you, how much it can store, how much it can hold. Think of it like file cabinets. So 128 gigabytes is how big it is, and SSD tells us that it's a solid state. So hard drives are either going to be old-fashioned or new. The old-fashioned ones are larger. They're like a record player, and they have an actual moving arm and magnets and stuff. They're a little less expensive, and the new ones are smaller and lighter, and they're just all chips. So they call them solid state, and they're more expensive, and you'll get a smaller solid state than you will, like the less capacity usually, but they are a lot smaller, and they make the computer lighter technically, and they can make the computer a lot smaller. Then we get Wi-Fi, and then we get Windows 11. So Wi-Fi, I imagine it's possible to get a computer without Wi-Fi, but Wi-Fi is its ability to connect wirelessly with the network in the house or with other computers, and without cords, wirelessly. And that's pretty much going to be on all computers. They're all going to be whatever's current. So that kind of gets faster and faster as time goes on, but no computer you buy is going to be, that's never going to really be an issue. Then the last thing is the operating system, Windows 11. A computer is a bunch of hardware. It's a bunch of components and things. It'll run with an operating system, and that's the software that keeps the computer aware and able to run software and stuff like that. So most computers are either going to be Apple or Windows, and Windows isn't brand specific. In this case, we're looking at an Acer, we're looking at an HP. We could find Dell's in here, we could find Lavino or something. All kinds of computers will run Windows. Apple's are proprietary, so Apple's only run on Apple hardware for the most part, and when you're buying stuff. So that's the big operating systems, and it's not that much different than buying a Ford or a Chevy or something. I would say buying an Apple is like buying a European car, where buying a Windows might be like buying a US car. So how they're all going to have a steering wheel, but the European car is going to be on the left side. So it's just a little bit different, but it's still the same thing. You could get in the car and drive. Their license plates look a little bit different, but they're still license plates. I can't think of anything else that's different, but there's going to be some differences, but they're not that major that you're not going to be able to figure them out. People that like Apples spend a bit more. As you can see, the most popular, we're not searching by price. We're not searching by any other qualifier, just the most popular laptop, or excuse me, the most bought laptop. So 9,000 people bought this Acer for $300. Well, while, does it even tell us? Some number of people bought this Apple for 13, but there's way more difference there than just the operating system. That has to do with who has the ability to spend $1,300 on a laptop versus $300. If you're buying a laptop to give to a kid to learn or to do school or something, that's different than a laptop that's supposed to run a business. If you're going to buy a laptop to run movies or make movies, that's different than a laptop you might get to power a 3D printer camera or something. Like sometimes you buy a laptop for a specific purpose, and that's where you might buy a $350 one. Or here, there's a $150 laptop. So the price is going to vary. And as we just kind of scroll through the best sellers over here, they go from price-wise just under $300 to $150 to $1,400 to $1,000 to another just under $1,000 to just under $200. So they definitely run the gambit. Oh, wow, $73 one. That's not even on sale. So that's the thing, is we're in 2024 at this point. Laptops have been around forever as far as technology goes. So you're definitely going to find old stuff. And that's something to be aware of, I suppose, too. You don't want to accidentally buy something that's outdated. So some of this isn't just assume that the seller is selling you something current, because there are reasons why someone might want an older computer and they are selling. So here's a 14-inch laptop that's going to look, from all appearances, just like the one above it, or even the one below it for $1,400. Physically they look very similar. It's really hard to tell the difference, but this one has very small specs. It has little tiny internals, where this one next to it is quite a bit bigger and faster and stronger, I guess you could say. So it's pretty much apples and oranges. So going through the list of best sellers has nothing to do with maybe the ones you might want to buy. All right. So that being said, seeing some people joining us, welcome. Is the Tuesday show coming back? Oh, I don't think that's the case. I just, Patriot had asked me to talk about this. And like I say, instead of doing a conversation over the phone, I figured I'd do a show just for anybody who might be shopping for a laptop or thinking about laptops. And just going to go general, big picture down until Patriot shows up, and if he has any specific questions. But I can see Snob is out there, Gizzard's out there, welcome. DJ was out there earlier, but it was so much earlier, probably when I first set this up, that the comment isn't showing up on my thing here to highlight it. These guys like Apple over Windows, and like I say, that's a whole nother thing. As far as when you buy them, it's going to be similar. There's lots of different Apples out there. They're all called MacBooks. Maybe they're not even all called MacBooks, but there's going to be differences between them, and those differences are the stuff we just described: the size of the screen, probably the quality of the screen or something, or it's what do you call it? Just the graphics card. They'll have different amount of RAMs. They'll have different amount of storage space in their hard drive. And then there's probably different ones as far as thin, like some are probably made to sit on a desk and not be as portable, and some of them are definitely made to be portable, that kind of thing. We can briefly talk about, there's phones now, which can be very capable. There's tablets, which are sort of a mix between the two. And I bring them up because I know some of these are Chromebooks. So this one, the second one in the list, actually is a Chromebook. More than just having an operating system made by Google, I guess. This is kind of a tablet with a hinge, right? These are a little bit closer to using operating systems that are more similar to a tablet or a phone. So if somebody is very comfortable with phones and tablets, and laptops would be a burden, so to speak, of like adding a new layer of knowledge that they might not be interested in pursuing. I would say a Chromebook might be an option there. They're typically a lot cheaper because they're not as powerful as laptops. I guess I should also mention pretty much everything you talk about with technology or computers for sure. You're going to find exceptions. I'm talking in generalities for the most part here. So, when I say Chromebooks are weaker and less than a typical laptop, you're going to find Chromebooks that are super powerful, I'm sure. Let's see. So we're going to talk about some of the things to consider. And this is, if you're buying a laptop for a kid going to school, let me know about what your feelings are on some of these things. Some of them are going to be more what's like important than others, right? Defense data stand. Two things I can't stand not having on a laptop is a backlit keyboard and the 10-number keypad. Okay, that's a great point. We can talk about the different components for sure, and we can definitely talk about the keyboard on a laptop. So, might as well do it right now since you brought that up. Some of your models, at least the last time I shopped, I figured this out. I don't know, I probably knew this before and didn't pay attention to it, but Dell, I usually buy Dell. Dell laptops have, I forget what they're called, the different models. And one of the differences in the models is their business models, let's say, will have the 10-digit keypad over to the side, over to the right. Like all keyboards will have the numbers above the letters, but that's really difficult if you're using numbers all the time. It's much easier to have your numbers over to the right on a separate part of the keyboard when you're typing in numbers all the time. And that format makes the computer wider, of course, because now there's a keyboard. Let me see, and the ones on the screen here have just keyboards. The ones that you can see have just keyboards. But if I were to, can I turn on my screen here? If I were to turn on my screen, how do I do this? Yeah. And then switch, I guess. My keyboard has a number keypad over here. So my numbers are across the top here, but I also have this 10 number keypad over here as well. So I think I'm still on, right? If I go back to the thing. That's the kind of the differences. These on the screen all have just the keyboard, and those are usually more for your portability and your thinness. Because again, most of the time, if you're not doing numbers all the time, you don't need all that extra space taken up on your physically on your for your laptop. I was just looking to see none of these really that are top sellers have the numbers on the side. So like I say, for Dells, that's a separate model or separate models probably. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's like that for HP. I don't know about Apple. Does Apple even they must make one with the numbers on the side. You really just don't see it in these pictures. But that's probably one of the differences between Apples as well. I know some people use Apples for business. Now, another thing might be that, let's say you want a computer for portability. You want it for whatever reason. You don't want that thing to be over on the side there with the 10-digit keypad. You can buy a USB version that'll plug into the side of the computer and offer you that keypad, in which case you can put it anywhere on the desk that you want to use it, or even a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth probably version of one. And so for peripherals, when we get into it, sometimes if you're debating between, let's say, 3 different models, one of them has the keyboard layout you want, the other 2 are drastically cheaper. You might find that a $15 accessory allows you to get that keypad functionality, and then you save all that money on the laptop or something. But that's a great point. And then the backlit keys is when you have the lights kind of coming out from behind your keys. And that is super nice because, especially when you're traveling, at least for me when I'm traveling, but maybe other people, depending on circumstances, how you use your computer, if it's not a well-lit area, you're not hobbled by that. You can still type pretty easily when there's the backlit keys. Let's see. Snob is saying, I like having the smaller size laptop so you don't get the keypad, but I use it with a monitor and standard keyboard at home. So docking it maybe it sounds like what you're doing, but that concept of using it as just a laptop when you're out and about, carrying it portable when you're traveling, but then coming back to a desk and either plugging in. Oh, sometimes they have like an actual dock port that you just kind of snap it into, but often you can get like a docking strip, which is about the size of a candy bar, and it'll be like USB, and you'll plug one USB cord into your computer, and then like you can plug all around that candy bar, you can plug all kinds of things, extra monitors and hard drives and accessories like mice and stuff. So coming home and docking into something like that is a great mix, right? A great not even a compromise. It's just the best of both worlds. Let's see. Then Gizzard says, same. I don't even own a desktop computer. I connect my MacBook to a docking station at home, separate monitor, keyboard, and mouse. So when you're at your desk, it's essentially like having a desktop computer, because when we're interfacing with your monitor and your keyboard, it doesn't really matter what those are connected to as long as they're fast and store what you're looking for. All right, so some of the things, thanks for everybody who's chatting. I don't really have a time frame on this, but I just wanted to do like a basic overview of a laptop that some of you might be interested if they're shopping right now. So things to consider when you're shopping are long-term usability. Some of these might be inexpensive because they're old, right? They might be inexpensive because they're a couple of years model back. So for long-term, you might be seeing either the capacity, like let's say for video games, a lot of times people buy these things for video games. And if it isn't for video games, maybe it's for content creation. So same kind of issues. You want to have current and capable video, playback or recording. And then you want to have like fast interconnections so that you're not wasting a lot of time waiting for your computer to catch up or waiting for your computer to juggle what you want it to juggle. So a computer that's great 1 year is probably going to be okay a couple of years, but after maybe 5 years, you start to see software demand more from a computer. And now the computer that was fine, able to juggle what it was asked of years ago, the software all got larger. So even though it's not asked to do a lot more, it's actually asking to do more work because the software got bigger. So for long term, typically people offset that by buying the biggest and best and the most current, the most new that they can. But you don't have to do that. So that's future proofing or upgradability. Then you get build quality and durability, and that's a big factor if you're traveling with a laptop for sure. Things like the hinge, the material quality itself, like the plastics that it's made out of, the keyboard, metal. The Apples are more expensive, but aren't they made out of like aluminum or something compared to most other computers made out of plastic? But I've never owned an aluminum computer. Well, I haven't owned an aluminum computer in a long time, and all my plastic ones are fine. But then you get things like spill resistance with keyboards and waterproof, that kind of thing. Like some of them are more or less susceptible to humidity and those kind of things. So that can be an issue, but it could also be a non-issue if you're not carrying it around. Jason's saying I used a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse and then had it connected to the TV. That's a great option, I think, for instead of using a dock. A lot of people, you can just set a laptop down somewhere in the room, have a Bluetooth or a wireless keyboard and mouse, and then have it connected to the television. So you have a massive monitor. The thing about televisions, I have an old giant television, so when I do hook up a computer to it, it's a little pixelated. It's not super fancy. I have 3 laptops. They all lasted about 4 years and started having problems after. And that's where you get one of these next things we're going to talk about somewhere down here will be repair and maintenance. So ability to have replacement parts. And that has something to do, not so much anymore. For a while there, we had to worry about if the company was still going to be around years later and if they used proprietary parts or not. Most of the time nowadays, even if someone has proprietary parts in their machine, you're going to be able to buy replacement parts, third-party replacement parts. But if you're not into that, or if the person who you're getting the laptop for isn't going to be apt to, interested in grabbing a screwdriver and opening the thing, warranties and service coverage can be a big thing. And that's another thing that Apple they have stores everywhere. And if someone isn't an expert, they don't feel like opening the thing. I mean, I don't think you're allowed to open an Apple really, but there's stores you can take it to, and you're going to pay for it. You've already paid for it. You're going to pay for it again when they open it, but they'll know what they're doing when they open it. So then we get into port selection, which isn't a big thing. It's getting to be not such a big thing anymore, but your ports are like your holes that are in the thing and how they connect to various, like either hard drives or monitors or keyboards or printers. So you've got USB, which is the most common. The number of USB ports can be a thing. And again, the number of ports on the machine. For me, I personally really like to have as many ports as possible. And luckily, because I buy business computers, it's not too big a deal. This one that I'm looking at, for example, has an HDMI, a USB 3, plain old USB, another plain old USB, and then a mic. On the other side, it has an SD card, another USB, an RJ45, and the power. Some of the newest will have a USB-C, and that's where it gets its power. So they expect you to put it into a hub or something. And that's where, again, you can kind of play around, and it becomes confusing or it becomes difficult because there's so many options. But you may want a lot of ports. The ones that are the least expensive for you only have a few ports, but how much does a hub cost? $11 or $20. And now you can take one port and turn it into 6 ports. So you can do that with your USB for sure. You could really do it with anything, HDMI, Ethernet, other display ports. One of the things when you get into Apple, I don't know all the intricacies of it, but there's a lightning jack, and then I think they've switched to USB-C. But if you go backwards, if you try to buy an inexpensive old Apple, you got to pay attention to the connectors. Let's see. Fasta's out there. Welcome. Let's see. So then we get into the display and viewing. So on a laptop, of course, the size, most of the time, the first thing they talk about is the diagonal distance or how large the display is. But there are different. Whoa. Am I still connected? Everything just went nuts. That's my USB going. I don't know if you heard that, but that's my USB on this old computer that's falling apart, glitching out a little bit. Some of my USB ports might be losing a connection or something, so they disconnect whenever they feel like it randomly. So your size of your display is one thing, but like pretty much everybody's been talking about, you can quite easily on most laptops plug in either a computer monitor or a TV, and either have a extended desktop or have a duplicate of your desktop. And that's super handy, especially when you're traveling. I always recommend bringing a double HDMI cable along. Not that they're super expensive, it's just so you don't have to keep buying them all the time. I've known from going to SHOT Show and forgetting the things that I probably own like dozens of these things by now. But just a long 6-foot cord or longer if you can. Just a long cord with HDMI plug on both sides. And almost every house that I've stayed in and every hotel I've stayed in, you can kind of pull the TV out the wall a little bit and look for the HDMI in, and where you would plug in like a VCR or whatever they call them these days, and a video game system. You could just plug your computer in there and then run that TV like a second monitor. You can do that at home, of course, and then you can, like, say, buy different kind of monitors, which can be amazing. Like I have a fairly wide monitor here, but they make monitors that are so wide they'll go from your whole across your whole table. And for gamers and people doing stuff, that's amazing. It's super, super cool. So I don't really think too much of the size of the monitor on my laptops personally, but that is an issue. The brightness and the type of screen, filters and things like that. They do make for laptops privacy filters that you can either buy it with it or apply to it, which are what are they called? They have I can't think of the word for the tech, but they make it so if you're looking from the peripheral at all, like you're sitting in a chair looking at it, if someone's sitting next to you, or if you were in a plane looking at your computer, the person next to you would not be, it would look like a blank screen to them. So they make some privacy filters, which are pretty handy, which might be good in a classroom or a library type of scenario. Then we get into keyboard and trackpad. We talked about that a little bit already, but Again, depending on if you're traveling with it or for your ergonomics at the desk, how you might be using it. Everybody's different. So all you can say is don't be restricted to what the computer has. The computer has those couple of options, like we already mentioned, the layout and then having the uh, backlit keyboards. There's also some tactile differences. Some of them the buttons will squish, some of them will click, some of them are horrible, and some of them are really nice. And that's when you buy online, you're really stuck on that. You could look at a popular one and then look at the reviews, filter the reviews by keyboard if possible. But it's going to be a tough one. You're going to have to maybe watch some videos perhaps and hope that the people bring that up. But I know keyboards are a big deal for some people. For me, it's not. I don't even remember half the time that they make these different keyboards. I'm too cheap to want to buy one, but I know that's a big deal for some people. And again, that is a factor on the keyboard, but no matter what happens on your keyboard or on your laptop, no matter what happens with what you buy, you can always buy the specific one you want and just either plug it in or use it wirelessly. And then the trackpads and mice and balls and other things, that's up to the individual. There's endless, and they all connect with USB. So there's, I'm going to go ahead and say there's no compatibility issues as I knock on wood over here. But in 2024, I wouldn't be too concerned about any type of compatibility issues with peripherals, shouldn't say, with keyboards and mice. You get into weight and portability with a laptop. The lighter you go, guess what? The least features typically. The heavier you go, they're better for sitting on the desk typically, and they typically have better screens. Cooling, noise are an issue with laptops. Again, these aren't things you're going to find out until you've had it, and maybe reading the comments. You can assume that something that's less expensive is going to be prone to being noisier or louder, or potentially wearing out sooner, but that's just a rule of thumb. I mean, that's definitely not a hard in stone or anything. Computers can get super hot. It's hard to see when I do my stuff because my cooler pad is pretty small, but my laptops sit on cooler pads that gamer kids use, and they're just like 5 or 6 extra computer fans. There's the same kind of fans we used to put in our towers, just they're sitting on a deck underneath your laptop so that your laptop blows air out. And then there's also, instead of sitting on a desk or something, it's also sitting on 5 fans that are blowing. So there's massive airflow underneath the laptop because they will get hot. And that's the hard drive, that's the processor, and then just, I don't know, maybe the fans themselves are making heat, but that's just the heat sinks dissipate and heat off that processor. Need to get rid of it. And a lot of times people don't think about that, especially people that aren't computer nerds. And that can be an issue. So if you're going to be getting a laptop that you're going to be around cats, dogs with fine hair, smokers, I don't know, any kind of sawdust or any kind of hobby that you're going to have dust laying around, just in an area like in Arizona here. I mean, I've worked on people's computers that didn't have any of the above. They didn't smoke, they didn't have pets, nothing, but they'd still get junk in their fans. So the smaller and the thinner and the fancier your laptop, probably the more difficult it's going to be to get to those fans if you've got to deal with them. And that's a tough one. Again, reading the comments, just make sure when you're reading the comments that you also read bad comments, especially on something like an Amazon or a Walmart or someplace where you have comments. Read the bad ones, because if the good comments are great, that might be somebody who just bought the thing. But if the bad comments are people who've owned it for a few years and they talk about how noisy it is and that kind of thing, that's where you get some insight onto that. Using it in bed. Yeah, a lot of people. I never done anything like that, but I can imagine with all the cookies and crumbs and stuff you're going to get on it. Dog hairs, cat hairs. I think people let their cats go on their beds, I've heard of. Till I got my MacBook, I thought all laptops were noisy and got hot. So you're saying MacBooks don't get hot? That's interesting. Probably because they're metal. Maybe that's part of the metal part. They suck heat into the metal so it dissipates better. Getting into battery life, that's a tough one. Because again, unless you're looking at the bad comments to find out which laptops to avoid, very rarely do people give good comments about like how great the battery is. But so you just kind of have to wing it. Thing is, even the worst battery life, the worst, bad charging situations, you can usually buy another battery. So it might be an additional cost. Again, reading the bad comments is worth double checking, just verifying, I guess, that the one you're buying, either because it's a good deal or it just has all the things you're looking for, making sure that it doesn't have any significant number of comments. There's always going to be the one person doesn't know what they're doing and they get mad at the thing and leave a bad comment. But if there's a series of bad comments that all talk about the battery life or how the thing quits charging after 6 months or something, that might be something to check out. Webcam and microphone. That's something that again is kind of up to the person for taking it to school. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't want to judge. I don't want to assume nothing. Having a webcam and a microphone are going to be on a laptop. I guess it's possible to buy them without it, but usually they're just going to be there. I don't think, I don't know. There might be laptops that are made specifically with the intent of streaming. So they may have like high quality webcams built in. But my typical advice with something like that, I don't think it's changed in 2024, would be to just assume the one you get in there is adequate. And then know that if you're going to give it to someone who's an enthusiast, that they're probably going to have, they're going to want to buy a second one no matter what. Or, they're going to want to buy one that's suited to their specific needs, in which case I wouldn't spend any extra on webcams or microphones. Audio quality, speakers, in other words, I think the same thing applies, right? Like either you happen by luck of the draw get one with good audio. I've had laptops that were great for audio, and I've had ones that sounded horrible, sound like an old cheap radio. But these Amazon basic speakers I think they cost like $29 or something probably, and they plug in with USB and they sound amazing. So even if and they're way louder than this laptop, that's why I put them in. So I think that's an easy one to get to deal with externally. The pre-installed software is an interesting one, and we could probably talk for an entire show because software, is the laptop is what you carry around and it's what does everything, but the software is what we interact with constantly. So I'm going to guess that an adult or kid going to college or whatever is aware of what software they want. So they're going to have a preference. They might ask for an Apple, they might ask for a Windows or a Chrome, but they're going to know what software they want. And I'm guessing that whatever we start talking about here with the numbers is going to be adequate for any software that's out there. Of course, that being said, if they're doing something that requires specific components of the computer or a massive, like a noticeably larger size hard drive or RAM or something, you're probably going to know about it. They're probably going they're going to be interested. Maybe they're doing video editing or they're doing animated stuff, and like they need massive amounts of hard drive. They need massive graphics cards. You're probably aware of that. You're probably going to know that when you get into it. But that's something to keep aware that some of the software that is going to be used by the computer is going to require bigger elements of the physical computer. But the other aspect of software is what it comes installed with. We've talked about the operating system, either the Windows or the Apple or the Chromebook or others. There's, what's the other one, the big one, Linux, and then others. But most of the time you're going to find Windows, Apple, and then sometimes Chromebook. But I don't think this is as big an issue now as it used to be. It might be a big issue with the inexpensive computers, the inexpensive brands, because one of the ways you can offset cost to the consumer is to put pre-installed software into the computer, which is typically annoying or worse. And let's say I want to build a computer and I want to price it at $500, but it's going to cost me $600 to make, no matter what I get, cheaper than $600. So I might go to somebody and say, if I put your software on here, will you pay me $100? And they say, heck yeah, let me put X amount of hard drive space worth of software on there, and I'll pay you $100 per computer. Well, do you think that person is just putting that software on there because they got nothing else better to do and spend $100? No, they're doing that because they're probably tracking everything your computer does. So that software when you see that kind of arrangement, that software is typically not helping you, and it's usually annoying at best. And at worst, it's tracking you or software, it's spyware or something. So I don't think that's that big a deal anymore. I don't know if I haven't heard anybody complaining about that, but the problem is that even back in the day, and this was a difficult part about being a computer tech back in the day. Some people don't care about that stuff. Some people are cool with it, and other people just didn't realize. So I don't think it's a thing anymore. It used to be a bigger thing with the Windows machines that were off brand. And that's one of the reasons people flocked to Apple, because that was frustrating. And if you didn't know what it was just like weird. So you didn't have to ever worry about that with Apple. Wait, did you? You probably, there's always an exception, but for the most part, you don't have to worry about that with Apple. Otherwise, pre-installed software is probably going to be things like subscriptions to an online gaming system or some kind of like movies thing or something dumb. So those kind of things can just be annoying. And if you're planning on handing a computer out of the box, like here, I bought this off Amazon, let's say, and here it is, like, welcome to your new gift. If you're not going to plan on opening it, in other words, you're just passing the gift along, that can be an issue. Those pre-installed software things can be an issue. If you're handing it to someone who knows what's up, like, I don't pick up a computer without, especially a brand new computer that's raw. I'm going to pick it up and look for that stuff and delete it immediately so that I don't even lay it. And so I remove all that hard drive space and get it back. And I'm sure that those softwares don't even exist on the computer anymore. So somebody who's at that level, yeah, give them whatever computer you want. But somebody who's new, who isn't going to be paying attention to that stuff, it might be a consideration to buy one of those inexpensive computers if they've got that stuff on there. Just knowing that you're going to open it and remove all that garbage, or have somebody remove all that garbage before then putting it back in the box and saying, here's your present. So I'm just bringing that up, but I don't know. Like I say, I'm old, so that might not be an issue anymore. Resale value, is that even an issue? I keep my computers and they just do other work for me. I've never gotten rid of a laptop personally. And it's just because I figure like, I can use that for something one day. Because unless they physically break, I guess I might have gotten rid of some ones that physically have broken. But if a computer just gets old, it still turns on and stuff, you could probably still do something with it. So I usually just stick them in a shelf with their power cord, and they just get retired. But when you're talking about resale value, if you are going to be passing it along or donating it perhaps to an organization that's worthy and they could use the hardware, keep in mind, all you got to do is flip the thing over and unscrew the bottom usually, or do some kind of a panel or a door. Sometimes lately it's been the whole bottom of the computer. But once you expose the whole bottom of the laptop, that's almost always where you're going to have access to the hard drive. And just take maybe 2 screws and physically unplug the hard drive. Keep that. The rest of the computer is just arms and legs. The brain is the processor, but the brain doesn't remember anything. The hard drive is the backpack. It's the file cabinet. It's the part that holds all your files. It has the operating system also. So you're passing along a shell of a computer with no operating system, but oh well. You're keeping the stuff that has everything you've ever done on that computer. Either take that out and put it into a shell, like an external drive bay, it's called, which means then it turns into an external hard drive, which you can just plug into any computer and just keep using as a hard drive. Or drill a bunch of holes in it and make sure that nobody can physically ever use it again. But that's the thing to keep in mind when you're on the other end of a laptop, getting rid of it. The computer itself is just a screen and a keyboard and a processor. The hard drive is everything you've ever done to it. You don't have to worry about the RAM. The RAM is temporary, so it's just juggling stuff. It doesn't remember much or any of your info. So as long as you take that hard drive out for the most part, you can safely pass the rest of that computer on to some kid who's a nerd and would like to play with all the stuff in there. Try to put it back together into a computer, which is pretty simple. You just have to put a hard drive on and kind of reassociate everything. But and it'll never have any of your data on it. or to an organization that's worthy that might be able to use it or pass it along and keep the money. So the other side of it, resale value. I mean, you're buying these things, unless you're buying an Apple. If you spent, $1,000 plus, you probably want some resale value. Unless Apple people are so wealthy, they don't care. They probably just throw them away when they're done. But, if you're buying a $150 Chromebook, I don't assume you're probably looking for much resale value out of that. Recyclability and that kind of thing. Again, they are they're just things of components. So you can take the keyboard out. It's kind of proprietary. You could take the hard drive out, though. You can take the Wi-Fi card out. A lot of the pieces of a computer can be taken out and reused. So there is some recyclability in most computers that way. And then as far as energy certifications like Energy Star, if you really care about that stuff, Energy Star is a thing, which you'll see on there because they paid money and they're paying attention to it. And it just means they're not wasting, they're doing as much as possible to not waste resources to build a thing. Okay, so Snob says it doesn't get hot even when reloading. So that must be lovely. It's amazing to have an app. If you had enough, I could, instead of buying an air conditioner, I could just buy 2 or 3 MacBooks and turn them on, and they would whisk all the heat out of the place. Okay, the next comment was Patriot. Hey, just got your email. Oh, no worries. Did you want a link to join in? Or I didn't put a link. I probably should have put a link to the show. I just assumed you'd know it was this channel. The MacBook will allow me to edit videos on a battery, where my high dollar gaming laptop wouldn't perform unless plugged in. Oh, that's interesting. Well, Patriot's here. So if Patriot wants to talk Mac or Apple books, whatever they're called, MacBooks or Apple computers, we can definitely do that. I can hold my own to some extent. But let's see. Gizzard says, another thing to consider, Macs come with free Office Suite and video editing software. In my case, I've never had to purchase software for my MacBook. That's a great point. So you are going to probably run into that. Now, depending on, again, what, like a kid, you're giving a kid a book, there's going to be free versions of everything. So, kid will figure stuff out, or that's part of the job of being a kid. You have to learn stuff, right? But an adult going to college probably has software that they're already using. So I think Patriot would have said if it was a Mac. So I'm assuming it ain't a Mac. But in that case, does she have a bunch of software that she's already using? And in that case, she could move it along. So like my Adobe, for example, is a subscription. I don't even think they care anymore. They used to care how many computers you had it on. I don't think they care anymore. So whenever and it's a web-based thing at this point. So whenever I start a new computer up, I just go to Adobe's website. Or no, I do have to download. I download the software, and then I log in, and then it doesn't care, and it's just on my computer. Adobe is pretty big, though, and that is something that I'd have to buy a computer to make sure it was large enough to handle the Adobe. With Macintosh or Apple's, you don't got to worry about that because they're not going to sell one with the wrong stuff in it. They're going to not only give you the software like Izzard is saying, but the computer is going to be able to handle it. And like what Snob is saying is it doesn't even require any extra effort to just use all the software that's on it. And that is an issue. I think I pay $50 a month for Adobe. So that's an additional cost to a Windows machine to get the video editing. Well, I don't use it that much anymore, but I used to. And that's what Gizzard has in addition to other stuff for free with Apple. Let's see. If you're going to do a lot of video editing, buy once or cry once. Get the best specs you can afford. You won't be sorry, for sure. I think we got Patriot in here, and he's about to say it's for his daughter. My laptop has Linux Mint on it, and I repasted the CPU. I don't know what that is. Like put new. I don't know what repasted is. My old Mini and old MacBook Air are still being used by someone else, as far as I know. Still going. Right on. Went to Costco and none had CD drives. I don't think a Costco, like I would say Best Buy or someplace, but I don't think a Costco is having they have whatever they have, right? They don't have everything. There's Chris. Welcome. I also put in a nice solid state. Yeah, I pretty much only go with solid states. I accidentally bought a regular one about a year ago, And I was like, dang it. As soon as it showed up, I was like, no wonder it was so cheap. Dang it. But I have nothing but solid state now. Because they're saying a lot of times you get rebates on old Apple stuff. Apple, Best Buy, and Amazon will buy back old Apple. So there's some resale value inherent. So you're paying $1,200, but you're not just out $1,200. You'll see some of that back potentially. So Patriot's saying she needs it just for university stuff, research documents, presentations, and email. All right. Well, all right. So I understand what you're saying, but I also just think, okay, well, what if she wants to try something that's a little bit more than like what a Chromebook can do? Because when you're talking, she just needs it for research documents, presentations. So that's like the Google Office, really, like, because they're just saying that Apple's come with their Apple version of Office. I don't pay for any other Office stuff either. I use a free version of Office, but there's also Google. And if you have Google Gmail, you either use it or you don't use it, but you have access to a whole Google suite of Offices stuff too. And that's definitely going to work on Chromebook. So you could be taking a look at, let's start with one option for Patriots specifically. Like I went to Amazon and I typed in laptop, nothing more. And when this results came up, I sorted them by the best sellers. The best selling laptop is an Acer, and it's $300, $279. And 9,000 of those have been sold in the last month. So, I mean, unless 8,000 are returned, like that's probably a pretty decent laptop. It's got, we went through it this one before, so just to go through it again, it's an Acer Aspire 3, which tells us like the make and model. It's a 15.6, which I'm pretty sure is what I have. So it's like, I'm going to say a standardish type of monitor. There might be smaller ones, and there's definitely larger, but 15 is kind of the standard size laptop. I guess that has something to do with the keyboard probably. Then you've got an AMD Ryzen 3. I'm not a processor snob, so that's an AMD is the processor company, and the Ryzen 3 means something to somebody. It's the brand, or it's the model, I guess. But it's, I don't know. I don't use anything that needs processors, so I'm not a processor snob. I don't even pay attention to processors hardly, but I know that there are differences between processors. So if anybody out there knows if there's like something inherently wrong with an AMD Ryzen 3, I'm assuming there's not because so many of them are being sold. But then it's got an AMD Radeon graphics, which is telling us, the brand is AMD again. I have no idea what graphic that is, but it must be okay. 8 gigs of RAMs. To me, I can't handle that. I am a snob with RAM, so that's okay. There's nothing wrong with 8 RAMs. It's better than 4 RAMs, which one below it only has 4 RAMs. But I like to see 16 or more personally. And that's something that she doesn't need it, but it's sort of like when you're buying your daughter a car. Like, she's not going to be racing around, but when she needs to get past somebody or something, you want her to have a race car. When she needs to get away, you want her to be able to get away. So 16, I would rather see, but I can handle 8. The 128 gigs of hard drive. Some people are going to want a lot of hard drive in there. If you're not going to be doing video, if you're not going to be putting a ton of pictures on it, that's fine. And then buy her an external hard drive to put her pictures on. So tell her, there's a hard drive on the computer, but try not to use it. Try to put all your pictures on this hard drive over here. And then that way she can have her hard drives in her hands all the time. Like, she never has to worry about needing the computer for anything. And on this size computer, a $279 computer that I'm describing here, I wouldn't put anything on this computer, just the software that it needs to run. And then I would put everything on an external hard drive, because then you could go to anybody's computer and have all your stuff. And then it has Windows 11 Home. I don't have any problem with that. If anybody has any comments on that one, let me know. So right out of the bat, I'm thinking this super popular one on Amazon right now with 9,000 sold. What does that say? 39,000 comments. I'm guessing that's a pretty decent option. For somebody who just needs a computer to kind of do stuff. This is sort of your capable import car, right? This is a laptop that can probably do just about everything. Nothing super well, but it can do a touch of everything. Video editing. What else would you need to do? Play video games, watch movies for sure. Like everything you mentioned, no problem. Let's see. Going back to the comments over here. The other thing I was going to bring up, so Patriot, what you missed was I was going through some of the aspects of what to get with a laptop, like what things to keep in mind when buying a laptop. We talked about this first page. We went through a couple of them as far as their prices and stuff. And then we went through, well, we haven't gone through, I guess specifically we didn't, but in general, we've kind of gone through the different elements of a laptop. Just starting from scratch. So in other words, I started from basics. You didn't miss much when I was just talking about the basics. Oh, so Jason was saying that he put new thermal paste on the CPU. Right on. Gizzard's agreeing that the solid state hard drive is the way to go. Oh wait, I'm missing stuff. All right, so this comment section is pretty crappy. I'm going to bring it up on the screen so you can see my drama trying to get through this horrible, stupid comment. And it won't get wider. Look, it won't get wider. So I have to, it's like all jammed together and they don't even show me the whole comment until I click on it. And I can't highlight any of them. Okay, so there's that one. I think we hit these comments already. It would also be cool if they gave you some kind of an indicator that you've already clicked on the comment so you'd know where you are in the list. But they don't. Okay, so Patriot is saying she needs one for university. It's hard because they're just saying it's hard to find anything with a CD anymore. Yeah, there's no optical drives on computers anymore. They figured out that nobody uses them and they're big, so they're not worth putting in there. They don't cost nothing, so they don't really add to the price of the thing. I just don't think anybody wanted them, and they make the computers way thinner without them. So I agree. I haven't seen one with one in forever. The external DVD burner, which is all you need because it'll be a CD drive and it's a DVD player, but it'll also burn CDs and DVDs, are like $30. So you can add every optical drive functionality at this point with a quality one for $30. Because there says most college kids will need some sort of word processing software and a spreadsheet. Yeah, for sure. When you go to college, do the college give you anything? I know that you can get school rates when you subscribe to things, but does the school give her like a subscription to anything? Because that might be an issue. You know, if the school gives her a subscription to Adobe, in other words, then get her a computer that can run everything Adobe is what I would think. Let's see. Most college kids with the Mac, you can expand the hard drive. Oh, with the Mac, can you expand the hard drive? No. You buy what you buy with a Mac, but like Gizzard said earlier, buy one, cry once, which, oh well, you know what I mean? Like if you go, oh, I'm going to buy a regular Windows, a normal computer, so I save money, and I got to buy this, and I got to buy this, and I got to buy this, and I got to buy this. You're not going to be all the way back up to where a Mac costs, but you're going to be like going back towards where a Mac costs. So it's buy once, cry once, but it's like buy once instead of buying 100 different things. Now I can't hardly read this. So she's using an iPhone forever, so she's used to that. She uses a Chrome through high school. All right, you're definitely adding to the conversation here. So as soon as you said that, as soon as Gizzard read she uses an iPhone, here's what happened. And a lot of people won't realize this, but this is what happened. As soon as Gizzard and Snob seen she uses an iPhone, they started to salivate. And immediately their brains started, because they have the Apple in them, their brains started saying, how do we bring her into the cult? I mean, to the Apple store. So they're going to see a whole bunch of comments where they're going to start turning heavy Apple on us right now. And it's just their nature. They can't help it. It's their nature. Let's see. Adobe is so expensive now. I'm sad because I used Photoshop and Acrobat when I was a photographer. Dude, here's the deal. Adobe is $50 a month. That's how much it costs, and you get everything. I like Adobe. If you're a student, it's $30 a month. And if you want, you can look online and find out ways to reduce the price of Adobe as well. I'll leave it there. Definitely you can get Adobe for cheaper than what Adobe would normally cost. Let's see. Snob is saying, I run Adobe PP on his. I don't know what Adobe PP is, but let's not be vulgar. Gizzard, Patriot. Mine came with a 1 terabyte internal solid state drive. And then I also have an external drive. So that's the thing. Every computer is going to have some sort of a port where it can talk to external drives. So I kind of mentioned it earlier. On an Apple, it's a little different because they're capable. They're not bad machines at all. I'm sure there's a bad Apple out there, but most of them are amazing machines. So they're like the exception to the rule. But on Windows, especially on a Chromebook, I would use it as like an Uber vehicle or like a rental vehicle. Like I would use the laptop, but I would keep all of my stuff on a hard drive that's removable. I wouldn't leave anything on the computer, mainly so that if you ever lose the computer, you don't have to worry about it. If the computer ever breaks, you don't have to worry about it. But also so that if you go to a friend's house, you're bringing all your stuff with you and you don't have to go, oh, I wish I would have brought my laptop. So I just think it's a better way to live as a kid or as a person who's running around doing stuff in the world than to live off of your hard drive. Then some Gizzard said SSD is the way to go. Yeah, I mean, there's so much. The only disadvantages to an SSD, to a solid state, is it costs more, but oh well. But anything else, like physically, they're the same. It's less fragile than the other kind, and it's less heavy than the other kind. So it's definitely the way to go. Let's see. I use solid state and sometimes deep state. That's a whole different conversation. Let's see. Chris is saying I've been using Lavona IdeaPad Flex since I started on YouTube with the i7 and upgraded the RAM, and it handles 4K easily. Okay, so I think we were looking at. Let me pull this out of the way. We were looking at one of those in these most popular ones. Lavono, is that the one you're saying? IdeaPad. This is a Chromebook. This one has an 8-core 520 processor. I don't know the difference between that and an i7. i7 sounds bigger. Upgraded the RAM. So when we talk about laptops, even on desktops, but on laptops specifically, the RAM is the arms, right? The legs, whatever you want to say, like the thing that juggles the software as it's doing its job. So 4 RAMs is weak. Like I don't even think they sell them with less than 4. They don't think they can. So here's one with 64 gigs. Or no, it's not. But mine has 32 gigs to make a comparison. They come in 4. So it's either going to be 4, 8, 16, or 32. And 4 is enough to run the computer. It's enough to run tiny little weak programs. And it can do one thing at a time, kind of a computer. 8 is like it can do a couple of things at a time. It can run a bigger program. 16 is like it can do whatever you want it to do. 32 is it can do whatever you want it to do fast. And most computers can handle at least 16 or 32. So they come with 4, but they can handle a lot more. So that's an easy and inexpensive upgrade. That's what I was getting to. So the 4 gigs of RAM is sometimes not a big deal, especially if you make sure that you can upgrade it. So buying a computer with everything good to go is nice, but if you're trying to kind of get the best bang for your buck, then sometimes buying a underpowered computer that's capable is the way to go, and then upgrading. Or sometimes you just buy whatever you want, and then later on you figure out, oh, I need more, and then you upgrade. We've talked about upgradability before. So that's what Chris is saying, is that he upgraded the RAM, and now with more RAM, and I'm assuming that means the video card is fine, because that's the other component to do in video, that it's capable. And that's what I was thinking, is like these Chromebooks, they use an operating system that's kind of more like a phone or a tablet, but there's still a hard drive. I mean, there's still the hardware is still a computer. I just haven't had a Chromebook in a long time. Then Patriot says, I'd rather get away from Chromebooks in case she does want to do anything extra. But pretty much what Chris just said, like Chromebooks are capable. I'm going to put it that way. Chromebooks can be capable. Let's put it that way. Because I think there are definitely inexpensive, cheap Chromebooks. And that's why they get their bad rap, or they got their bad rap. But I don't think that's the case. Especially Chris is doing fine with his. Let's see. Gizzard says, I'm running a 2-year-old MacBook Pro and not even thinking about upgrading. Still going strong. Well, I won't tell you how old my laptop is, but Yeah, for $1,700 or whatever they cost, you'd think they should last a little while. Foss is saying I use the Lavono iPad for streaming also. Okay. Gizzard is saying that 3 out of the 4 hens recommend Apple. Well, don't you all have iPhones? And he put 20 gigs of RAM. So 20. So you have 24, or you literally put 20 in there. But yeah, see, so adding RAM turns it into something that's more capable for sure. Snob says, seriously, I would not buy one of those cheap ones for your daughter. I bought my youngest one similar to that almost 2 years ago, and it barely made it a year before she started having all sorts of issues. I'm getting her a MacBook this year, so it should last her through college. I mean, that's real work. That's real world experience and a very similar scenario to what you've got going on. And I don't know. I mean, I'm prejudiced, I guess, but if it was my daughter, she'd have the best Apple that she could get. If she was 10, she had any inclination to Apple, I'd get her whatever the best Apple was, put insurance on it, and now she's able to do whatever she might want to do at school. But that's easy for me to spend everybody else's money. Gizzard says, in all seriousness, having a MacBook along with an iPhone, everything is seamless between the two. Yeah, that's where I'd say if it's a money thing, Chromebook, capable like Chromebook. Like I would take Chris's advice and just buy a Chromebook that's bigger than this one, because this is just what the best sellers are. That's why I'm using these as an example. I would probably look for a massive Chromebook, same kind of concept as the Apple. Like give her something that she's not going to have to worry about upgrading. And then, if she uses it, fine. If she doesn't, oh well. But or if money isn't the issue, Apple, whatever. Is this one a good one? The Apple 2024 MacBook Pro with M4 chip, 10 core CPU, $1,300 on sale. We're allowed to talk about numbers over here, right? We're so worried about, if we said this in another chat, I'd probably get my channel shut down. But I think I'm allowed to talk about that this was a $1,600 laptop and it's on sale for $1,400. I think his PP is called Premiere Pro. Is that what he was saying? Let's see. Has anyone asked Patriot what his budget is yet? That makes a big difference. Yep, for sure. No, I haven't. I spend money. It's your job to come up with the money. The last Apple computer I used was an old Macintosh with fiber optic modem in Mexico. Is there much of a learning curve? You got to first tie your right hand behind your back. You have to do everything left-handed, I'm pretty sure. And it helps if you get one of them things where you put hooks on your feet and you look at everything upside down. So if you go left-handed and upside down, apples are easy. There's no problem. Now, if you do it, I don't know, some other way, then I don't know. But I don't think there's that much of a learning curve. Gizzard says, I don't have any kind of affiliate relationship with Apple, but I've always been happy with their products. Let's see. Gizzard said, ask Snob. He went from Windows to MacBook, and it only took him a week or two, and he was a pro. I mean, for me, I bought a white iBook. I don't know what they're called, but I bought an old Apple laptop that was old a long time ago. And I tried to use it, and I couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work, which, if I couldn't get it to connect to my Wi-Fi, it made no sense to me why that wouldn't connect to my Wi-Fi. But I didn't have much use for the thing, so I didn't really use it a lot. I can't say I gave it a lot of effort, but it was essentially the little X is on the other side. So I don't know. What do they tell you in the text to speech stuff? Like, have they ever recommended apples at you? I figure they either must be awesome for that, or they have to be awesome at it, I'm assuming. Like, I can't imagine how Apple would not be accessible. But I would think as accessible use, it can't be that much different, because they're what's the word? Like they're interoperating, or they're interpolating it, or whatever the word, into spatial relationships. So in other words, if they say you got to click X, do they care if it's on the right or left? And that's really the only difference between Apple and Windows. I mean, I guess really the only differences are where they put stuff on the screen, right? So I don't know. And then if your daughter's already used to the phone, everything Gizzard said, I mean, there's no way they can't be very similar that way. Then we get to Sandwich Sarge has been the lone hideout or holdout. Mine is not the Chromebook. Oh, okay. You got a Windows machine then? Then Gizzard says, I bought my previous 13-inch Mac Air in 13. Still have it, and it still works. And then that's where Patriot says, what's a MacBook run price-wise? We'll take a look at that. Snob says 700 to 10,000. That's probably the range, really. He's not even kidding. Snob says, I had an old... I only used an Apple IIe in school prior to buying my MacBook Pro, and it was super easy to get used to it going from Windows for years. Patriot says Apple software automatically comes with accessibility built right in out of the box. Yeah, I kind of figured. They were the first ones to do like a lot of that shit that exists, so I can see that. Like, I think they invented a lot of that stuff. Gizzard says, it depends. For a college student, a MacBook Air would work just fine. You could pick those up for around $1,000 or sometimes less if they're running a sale on Amazon. Well, that's the other thing is you've got, what's it called? I think I'd remember Prime Week, whatever, coming up because of the Black Friday sale and Cyber Monday. Oh, that's the last comment. Right on. So I don't know if this helped or not. Let's go take a look. I'm going to just look at Amazon because it's the easiest thing to look at here. And we'll put in Apple laptop. Now, you guys who bought stuff before, is it cheaper to buy stuff off of Apple Store? Is it cheaper to buy stuff off of like Amazon or something? Or is it cheaper to buy like on a Black Friday, like in store? Because that's, you know, they might be doing some crazy stuff like you got to be in the store type of thing. So I went to Apple laptop. I don't like featured, so I'm going to switch it to bestsellers. And this, again, isn't really showing us anything other than the ones that sell the best. That doesn't mean they're the best or anything. And I think it has that same one. So it came up with an Apple MacBook Pro with an M4 chip and a 10-core CPU and a 10-core GPU built for Apple Intelligence, 14-inch liquid retina display, and 16 gigabytes of memory, 512 hard drive space. So that seems pretty capable to me. Can you upgrade RAMs in a Mac? Is that a thing? Or do you just take it to the store and they do it? Let's see. One video? What? No. Let's go find out if Snob or Gizzard has a video on this. Come on. There's no videos for a Mac laptop? Wow. There's no videos. Weird. Snob says Amazon is usually cheaper. Then Gizzard says, when I got mine, Amazon was running a sale. Best Buy had the same prices on their website, so check around. Patriot says, one thing Apple does give a military discount. They have a military-only site. I don't know what the discount is on it though. I don't know what Gizzard's talking about. I can't understand this comment, so I don't understand what Gizzard is saying. I can't. Got a lot of static on that one. Don't know what you're talking about there, Gizzard. So let's see. Snob says you don't need to upgrade the RAM on Mac. They do come with some crazy magic, and 16 equals 32. Well, they do. See, here's my thing about Macs is unless they change things, they can. What do they call that? You can determine what's in your RAM. You can put things in your RAM, right? So I want as much RAM as possible. I'm a RAM addict, though. But that sounds like you don't get to upgrade your RAM. You pretty much get told what you get. You buy what you're going to buy with an Apple, as far as I'm keeping aware. This is saying it's the lowest price in 30 days, $1,300 and well, it's $1,400, and that's an adequate Apple. That was the most popular one, or I shouldn't say the most popular, the one that sold the most from Amazon. It sold 9,000 last month. Then they get you with $1,000, so $400 less. You're looking at a 13-inch, a little bit less, an M4 chip instead of an M3, built for Apple Intelligence. I don't know what that means. 13-inch monitor, same as I just said. 16 megs of RAM, so that's fine. SSD, I wouldn't even care. Like, they're not going to build one that has too small a hard drive, and I'm going to still recommend put everything on an external hard drive. So I don't really care about the hard drive space. Backlit keyboard. That's what Defense Stat was talking about earlier. And then I don't know, Touch ID. It's probably where it reads your fingerprints or something. There are no videos on anything today. What's up with that? Does Mac just none of the Mac people are like, I don't want to make a video of this. I don't want to make a video on my laptop. Are they just not showing videos? Nice. Thanks, Amazon. Just don't even show videos. So that one's $1,000. It's on sale, it looks like, by 9%. So it's really just $100 off, but it's $1,000 right on the dot. Then they have a 2002 MacBook Air. Does Air mean like there's MacBook Pro and there's MacBook Air? You guys want to tell us what the difference is? Gizzard is saying the M series Apple chips have lots of extras built in for video processing. Gizzard agrees, buy as much buy as much memory as you can afford. That's RAMs. And then there's a coupon where you can save $150. Snob is saying, in all seriousness, a MacBook Air will do anything a college student would need and then some at considerably cheaper price, and they are way lighter. Okay, so is the Air is the walk around one and the Pro is the sit on your desk one. So that last one I mentioned at $1,000 was a 2024 MacBook Air, but you can get a 2022 MacBook Air with a M2 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, the same hard drive, pretty much all the same features, but an M2 processor, and that one is $950. So no brainer, buy the new one, right? Like, you're only saving $50 to buy one that's another processor older and probably a few years older. But it looks like after that, you're looking at, well, there's a $200 one from 2017, which is probably what I should buy. And then there's another more expensive one somehow. Why is that one more expensive? I have no idea, but there's another one. Oh, no, it's $50 cheaper, so I don't know why that one's cheaper. But the other things are all accessories. They have webcams and cables, and here's something that was probably a question for you guys that own these things. It sounds like we're pretty much going towards Apple at this point. The new ones, 2024, I'm assuming will have USB-C. Would a 2022, would a 2017, those are going to have the Apple proprietary cables for charging and for connecting things, right? Gizzard says the difference is a Mac Air is the entry level. The Pro is more for professionals. MacBook is Apple terminology for a laptop. Yep. Desktop computers are called iMac. I don't have any time to play with a new computer, but I could put it here where my dead monitor is. I was thinking about I could get an iMac from the school, probably pretty cheap one day, and have an iPad sitting here. But I would have it just to play on or whatever. So I don't know. We're right. Well, I guess we're a little bit over an hour, but I don't know if we're helping at this point. If it was a good overview for laptops in general or not. I did have a what do you call this thing? Not a playlist. I want to keep calling it a playlist. I had a thing over on my Amazon that you can look at, which is just a bunch of laptops, an idea list. There we go. And if I can open it up again. So I just made an idea list. And what I did is I just used that list of the most popular stuff. It does have some Apples in here. Like right now, there's the same one we've been looking at for $1,300. There's the $900 or the $1,000 one. Actually, all the ones we looked at are in here. What do you guys think about Amazon Renewed? MacBooks, because Amazon will refurbish stuff or make things nice and then sell them quite a bit cheaper. I've had no problem. Almost every laptop I've bought has been refurbished because I'm that cheap that I wanted to buy the best bang for the buck. So I would buy a refurbished, couple-year-old model, and most of my laptops are really cheap. But I'm knocking on wood. I have had problems. I had my fans go out on one. I had a keyboard go out on one, but years later, and then they lasted for years more. So I don't think you have to deal with that on on an iPad, or on an Apple though. Snob saying I'm buying her on Amazon renewed MacBook. Gizzard is saying mine is 2022, has USB-C and the proprietary cable, but it can also charge via USB-C. Okay, that's super cool. So you don't have to worry about buying like a couple-year-old one or a refurbished. You'll still get I think, universality of USB-C. I might be wrong, but I think it's a very useful cable. All right. Well, with that, thanks, Patriot, for the question, and hopefully this helped people. The Gizzard, I guess, technically has an Amazon store. So does Snob. I got one too. Mine's the only one with links, though. So mine's the most convenient. But yeah, if you want to grab something with one of our links, we all appreciate it. And if you have any other specific questions, Gizzard goes live on Friday. Snob is often in there. Or is Gizzard going live on Thursdays now? I've heard rumors that Gizzard might be doing a Thursday show at some point. But thanks, everybody, for joining us. And have a great rest of your week. And we'll look for some feedback. We'll answer questions if they come up in the chat or whatever. And I think I have it set up to play a thing on the way out. I'm not sure. Have a great week.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.